So Gavel and DecisionVault, it's 11:02. I'll leave it for one more minute to let some people join, and then we'll get started here first with a quick introduction on what's DecisionVault, what's Gavel, and then we will hear from Beth and Caitlin how they have implemented these two tools together, and then finally we'll leave some ample time for Q&A. And also, I have some new functionality that I'll be demoing on this call around the repeatable objects in Gavel that we now support. Well, we almost support. It's live in staging. It'll be live in the real app for you to use by the end of the week, probably. All right, 11:03. Time to get going. I'll put this screen over here. Okay. So Gavel and DecisionVault. So with DecisionVault, hello, PowerPoint, click. No, it doesn't want to. Maybe, okay. So Gavel is a document automation tool, right? And it has a questionnaire in there. So why would you put DecisionVault up front? DecisionVault also being a way to gather information from your clients. Well, with DecisionVault, we kind of split out then the data gathering from what you might do with that information next, right? In terms of Gavel, it would be document automation. So like splitting that out and having the client go through the intake portal makes it possible that we can now take that information that was entered one time by the client to then do different things. So there's functionality in DecisionVault to help you build up your design sheet, your meeting template for how you're going to have a meeting with the client and look at that information while you sit down with the client. Then more information might come up. 3 other people come up in the conversation. Well, because DecisionVault functions like a portal, the client can log back in, can add more information to follow. So we keep adding the information in DecisionVault, and then it can go into Gavel, or it can go, or we can export the financials into a nice looking Excel sheet, or we can now, this is new since a couple of weeks ago, push the names of the clients and all these data points into PowerPoint slides. Or you can sync it to Clio or your case management tool, Practice Panther, Lawmatics, etc. And finally, push the same information into your draft platforms, right? So splitting out the data gathering from how you use that data by using DecisionVault to interact with your clients, then makes it possible to reuse that information and greatly reduce the amount of copy pasting that happens in your practice to like build up the documents for the clients, build up like the trust, etc. for the clients, build up other documents, and use this info. So that's the 30 seconds, well, maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes intro on DecisionVault. So I'll let Dorna introduce Gavel.
Thank you so much. Great to see you all here. And we're really excited about this webinar. So first thing I wanted to start with, especially for those of you who may not be using document automation already, is what is document automation? So if you have templates or forms within your practice that you want to generate more rapidly because you have rules that you can set up to tell those documents how they should generate, that is something that you can do with document automation. So what does Gavel do? We can gather the data. So you can take that data over from DecisionVault, push it into Gavel to determine what are the different data fields that you need for all of your documents. You can automatically push those into your documents. This second bullet here is what I really want to focus on because it is very powerful, the level of logic that you can put inside of Gavel. If you can explain something in a if this, then that type of rule, no matter how complex that rule is, then you can automate it inside of Gavel, those documents. So you automatically push them into documents, you create document sets. Those can be Word documents, so Microsoft Word documents. If you do have PDF documents, so let's say you have probate forms, court forms, you can also use those inside of Gavel, and it's also possible to automate those. You can create user accounts. So your users can actually create accounts on the Gavel platform and come back and see their documents whenever they need. And then you can also build legal products. And this is a little bit more of a high level topic that people get into once they've really started automating. If you wanted to take your legal services and turn them into revenue generating legal products and actually charge people through the platform, that's also something you can do on Gavel. Few of the highlights of Gavel: really easy to use. So when you're looking at the different document automation tools that exist out there, I think they usually fall into one of two categories. They're either really easy to use, but not much more than mail merge, not a lot of robust logic functionality, or they are really, really powerful, but they're very hard to use. They require you to really know how to code and draft a bunch of your own custom syntax. Gavel really marries the best of both those worlds. You have something that's really clean, user-friendly, easy to use, but also is something that you can do anything in terms of the logic. You can, I wrote here, we dare you to give us your logic scenario that we can tell you how to do inside of your documents. You can also customize your own documents. So as opposed to something like Wealth Counsel or Interactive Legal, where they require you to work within their forms, you can customize your own forms inside of Gavel. And then, as I mentioned, PDF and Word. So let's just jump to the next slide, where I wanted to talk about one of the data structures that we have inside of Gavel, which is called repeating items. Repeating items are essentially lists. So you may be gathering information about all of the children that someone has, all of their grandchildren, all of the assets they have. There's a specific data structure inside of Gavel that supports that structure. And that's something that is very important for a lot of estate planning attorneys and is a functionality that we have that many other document automation functionalities don't have. So that's the main one I wanted to focus on. And we'll be talking a little bit more about this as we dive forward. But with that, let's dive into some of our customer examples.
Yeah, so Caitlin, you want to
talk
to this one?
Certainly. So at White Oak Wills and Trust, we do both planning and administration. And we've been really successful with the Gavel to Wealth Counsel sort of pipeline for the planning side. But we were still trying to figure out how do we address the administration side, especially where in Oregon, we have very sort of specific forms. And we have a lot of language that we like to use in-house that maybe other people aren't using. And so what we started to build was with DecisionVault, we had the clients entering all this information, but we realized paralegals were still manually entering information into these Word documents. And so we built out a series of templates that goes from DecisionVault through Gavel to then really spit out documents that get us 90 to 95% of the way there. And then that way our attorneys really are only sort of like custom, putting the custom language in that's really specific to this case in our documents themselves. So what you see on your screen is you can see how in Gavel, there's some basic information, both the client's putting in and the attorney's putting in, and then it's sort of generating a set of documents that we need at sort of each phase of the probate process.
Yeah, I can stop sharing if you want to give your quick demo.
Yeah, happy to.
I think you should be able to just share. There we go. Perfect.
Awesome. So what you're seeing here is a test matter that we have in DecisionVault, labeled Scooby-Doo as the client. And typically what our workflow looks like, so this is where a client's already completed the questionnaire and an attorney is really coming in here to the design sheet to answer the legal questions, an attorney or a experienced paralegal. So they would come in here and they would decide, okay, what is the county of administration? Are we going to require bond? Was there a will? Really those like specific questions that a client wouldn't know the answer to, but an attorney would. So a client would enter that information in DecisionVault, and then we would export it to Gavel. And we decided to have like sort of 5 phases, if you will, because there's a set of documents that occurs next to each other every time, at least in the state of Oregon. So with your petition to appoint a PR, you would also need notices, for example. And so we put them in these phases so that all of the documents sort of generate all at the same time of what we would need at that specific phase. So this screen here is where the fields sort of map over between DecisionVault going into Gavel. Once you've mapped them once, you shouldn't have to touch this again. So the screen looks kind of scary, but once it's done, you can just pretty much ignore anything that's on here. And then you just click Process Template out of DecisionVault and click Results. And then if there's any sort of blank questions, Gavel will prompt you to answer them. This is going to just, it's a confirmation screen to make sure you got everything the way you want it. And you hit Continue. And what's really powerful about Gavel behind the scenes is it's also sort of deciding what documents is it going to produce based on the answers to the questions. So if we had selected that we need notices to heirs or devisees, it's deciding whether we should generate those documents. And then it spits out, so based on sort of our answers, it's spit out specific to the client, right? So Scooby-Doo, the last name. We have a cover letter that we send to the county, an engagement letter, our petition itself, which I'll open up for you. And it gets us really, again, 90 to 95% of the way there. Sometimes there might be a minor formatting thing we need to do, or there's custom language that, like, in Oregon, we have to really explain the estate assets and the creditors to our courts and be hyper detailed. So we might include something like this so the attorney knows, like, we need you to get more detailed in this document. But otherwise, it's a pretty close document draft, and we've been able to do this for the majority of our administration, and it's allowed us to be specific to language we like and want to use, and also really specific to our courts. Sometimes even counties are different in Oregon, so it's allowed us to really customize what we have.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I will share my screen again to get back to PowerPoint. Desktop 2. Should still be sitting underneath. There we go. All right. Thank you, Caitlin. Beth, you want to take this away?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Beth Kostelnik. As I was introduced, I'm an Illinois lawyer. I do estate law. I own Peace of Mind Legal Services. And in wearing another hat, I also am the owner of Techie PM, where we help our law firm clients strategize and implement some of these wonderful tools that you're seeing here today. So I'm very excited to be invited here to speak to these two products because I truly have these on the top of my list as my number one. Get you up and running with the online questionnaire and having a document automation or document generation automation tool that can get to that more advanced logic. And as Dorna said, you know, it's got the capabilities while still having the ease of use. And I like to challenge myself to try not to have to edit a darn thing when I run my templates, you know, and it's kind of fun. It's a little bit addicting. So it's kind of, that's a little bit of my background. So I have a lot of different use cases to share with y'all if you want to have some conversations. The one that I specifically called out here had to do with drafting multiple real estate documents. So for me at my law firm, I needed something to supplement wealth counsel. So when I'm talking about supplementing wealth counsel, I needed the deeds. I also like to create what I call my Peace of Mind for Parents of Minors pom-pom package, which is where I give that extra kind of attention to the parents who get these binders that have worksheets to fill out, you know, and to be able to customize those with their client, with their children's names, and also put like copies of their like standalone guardian documents. Like all of that was stuff that wealth counsel couldn't produce for me, even though I'm a wealth counsel user. So I was always in search of finding the right document generation tool to supplement that. So the example that I'll take you through here is the creation of the real estate documents. And I specifically go through creating 2 of them at a time. So it's pretty common that my clients will own 2 pieces of real estate that we have to somehow transfer into the trust, whether it's through a deed or a transfer on death instrument. So I'm using the transfer on death instrument example. So this is just a screenshot showing kind of the integration of where we pull over the data as it was very nicely shown in the previous demo. So we can go to the next slide. And here's that special magic place where bing, the two the two real estate documents end up popping out flawlessly formatted, and with these particular documents, without me having to even do any extra formatting after they spit out, which is amazing, which makes it obviously very easy to delegate and also, you know, to be able to rerun if there's an error or anything like that. So we can do a run through of the demo voucher. And Nella's going to share. I've been having some glitchy things going on. So she so kindly has offered. Nella works with me at Tech EPM. She's one of our senior consultants that helps out with the implementation of these products. So here we have the, as you saw, the firm side of DecisionVault. So where we're picking up at, just to kind of bring this workflow into like real world examples, just for those of you who aren't super familiar with kind of having these, you know, some clients, some firms don't even have the online questionnaire yet. And the idea of like data flow and repurposing data, and then how that can be used into streamlining workflows down the path. I know sometimes that's a foreign concept. So let me take you to kind of where we're stepping into the process here. This would have been where DecisionVault, the client already created their account in DecisionVault. We sent them the link. They got it done for me before the consultation. They come in for the consultation. Maybe we added a few more people that they forgot to mention in their questionnaire. I'm able to quickly just add new contacts in here. As I'm having the consultation with them, or sometimes after, just depending on the vibe I get from the clients, I may or may not have my computer open. I fill in the design sheet. So now if you can open the design sheet. So here's our design sheet. This is extremely customizable. Whereas the questionnaire that you get out of DecisionVault, let me just take a quick statement on that. That is so out of the box, which is so valuable. So many clients of mine that they're like, I'm ready to get an online questionnaire going and to use DecisionVault. It's made for estate lawyers. It is, you know, with the influence of Wouter's wife, very kindly, she's in his ear, and we appreciate that every day. It is just made and customized to be as out of the box as you can, where a lot of tools require considerable customization to get what DecisionVault can do. And so a lot of people come into DecisionVault just because they want to get that online questionnaire out as soon as possible. And I'm saying, if you want as soon as possible, DecisionVault is the way to go. And of course, you can just tweak and improve and make it better and better. And then they've had these benefits like the design sheet, or pulling the diagrams now, or and the fact that Wouter is very integration focused. You know, anybody who has the open API and they're the main players, like, he is on it, right? So it plays really nice. So that also helps me as kind of like a techie nerd, is that I may change my systems from time to time, and I like to choose products that I can trust are going to play nice. So that was one of the reasons why DecisionVault is always an option and something I recommend. So back to here, I'm at my consultation. Maybe I'm filling this out. Maybe it's after the consultation, I'm filling it out. And what I'm trying to do here for this format is I'm trying to just get as many data points in here, because I might have some data points ready to go at that time. My assistant might gather some additional data points later, but we'll have this all building up in here until the point where we are ready to start drafting. So this can be used and leveraged for a bunch of different Gavel workflows. So for example, I can have a Gavel workflow for that pom-pom binder for minor children that I mentioned, right? The Gavel workflow, we can run it there. The example I'm going to show you is the real estate workflow. But I also like to include just there's some things in Wealth Counsel, for those of you who are Wealth Counsel users or kind of use the big brands. If you are particular on your customization or formatting, that's where Gavel, tools like Gavel and Gavel specifically, because it's so easy to use, it works really nice, because even if it's something that's in Wealth Counsel and I just find myself editing it every time it comes out, building it out in Gavel isn't too complicated. So for example, the memorial instructions, I build that out in Gavel. You know, why bother, pulling it out from there when my support staff can just pull it as they're preparing the binder with the other documents that are the supplemental documents. And sometimes the state-based documents from Wealth Counsel have a little work that could get done. So here's where you can control that. So if you find yourself taking these big tools, these big drafting softwares, and you find yourself editing a lot, you might be growing into a document generation tool as opposed to building everything out in there. Okay, so Nella, back to this demonstration. We're going to go ahead to the client side of DecisionVault again, and we're going to run the Gavel workflow. So here we go. This is the real estate workflow. And as was just described in the previous demo so nicely, you can see this pulls in all of these fields that every field I possibly could to push this over into Gavel, whether it is from the design sheet or whether it was what the client entered. Then we process the template. And what you'll see here is that this is where I really wanted to leverage that repeating item capability that Dorna was mentioning. So what I have here is a repeating item for all of the relevant real estate variables. So what we come in here is all we're entering is, I have a legal assistant or a paralegal, they have the original deed, and they are entering this data, and you can do as many pieces of real estate as you have to do. So it's kind of nice to just to knock out, you know, multiple if you do happen to have that for your client situation. And we did run, so we didn't have to sit here watching us enter data. We're using Gavel's data management to pull some data. And here you can see this has already been pre-populated, so we're not typing in the real estate information. Yep. And so we can go ahead and run this. And what you'll see is, looks like we might have gotten a little caught up there pulling the data management. What you'll see is it'll pop out two different transfer and death instruments for two pieces of real estate in Illinois, and they are identical based off of the formatting and everything that we have pulled in the actual Word template. So another way is that, so there you go. So when you do a quick PDF is a nice way just to do a quick check. This is the outcome. If you scroll down just a little now, it's just done. That's all there is to it. It's just done. So if you are and maybe there would be, you know, you might want to put in a page break or something if the length comes into a weird place. Even that, Dorna, I feel like I could challenge myself on making sure that sticks together with the right word formatting. But, you know, so it's fun to keep just trying to make it better and better. So yeah, so that's the gist of it. And this is just any document that you can dream of. Now, just to talk more about like the use cases that I'm seeing is the probate example is huge. I mean, you just think about the amount of time that you have to spend filling in court forms, and the fact that Gavel allows the PDF capability. It's, you know, and not all document generation tools allow that. So that's a huge, you know, reason to explore the ones that do allow it. And it's easy to do, and you can pull in all of the, yeah. So for any sort of PDFs, court forms that, you know, don't change a ton, it's super valuable. So, and similarly as the previous demonstrators, we have broken it up into different phases, you know, so if you think of, you kind of have a different stage for each phase of probate, that you can run a different workflow to get all those like probate opening documents up. You can run a different workflow for like all of those financial releases and everything that would need to come up in that way, or then you're at the closing probate documents. So, I mean, it's really like, when you can start imagining the possibilities, it's amazing. And I know that if you haven't used a document generation tool, or if you haven't used an online questionnaire, this might be a little bit of a foreign concept, but hopefully our demonstrations have been able to show you kind of the art of the possible. And, you know, I only ran like 2 documents here, right? But there's nothing to stop you from running like 15 documents at the same time, right? All of that can easily be created and generated.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
So I'll take over to document or to screen sharing for a moment again. Yeah, so and that's one of the differences. DecisionVault integrates with several document automation tools, and I would say that Gavel between those is the most both accessible and powerful of like being able to build out these complex flows. The fact that what you saw was there's a DecisionVault screen where we pull the fields, we can map them. DecisionVault, the first time it'll be a lot of clicking, but then the tool will remember the choices you made for the next time. And pushing that into a workflow and then having that workflow go into those documents means that from one workflow, you can generate a whole bunch of different documents. And that's not the case with all of our document automation integrations. Some of those don't support that. So the one thing before we go to Q&A that I wanted to show is that, as you saw in Beth's demonstration, she had the repeatable real estate. Now that's something that we probably cannot get to just yet. But what there is, I think, in some of her workflows as well, is like a repeatable object for a list of the children, a list of beneficiaries, and then you could like generate a letter to each of the beneficiaries, something like that. Yes.
Can I just give a quick example of this, since I know where you're going with this, Wouter, and I'm very, very excited. But like a good example is like interested parties for probate, right? So you might want to have a notice go out to 7 different people, but you want to make it look really nice and professional and addressed to them. So that might be an example. Okay, keep going.
Right. So for the first step of supporting that, and again, you'll see me do this. This is not live for you yet. End of the week, I think. So the settings screen for Gavel has been changed. Will have been changed. You can pick one of your workflows and pull the info, and DecisionVault will pull out what the repeatable objects are. So in this case, I have a test object for children. Each of like that repeatable object has a set of attributes such as their first name, their middle name, their last name, and you'll be able to map those to DecisionVault counterparts, like the first name, middle name, last name, etc. So that's why we were not able to support your repeatable real estate thing yet, because that just gets too complex. But for now, we'll stick to contacts, and I think the next thing that we could think about adding is maybe assets, right? So like repeatable assets, because those have a description, they have a value. So that's kind of a repeatable thing. So I have these mapped for repeating part tests. So if I go to a demo matter for a moment, and here, this one has lots of contacts. We'll go to Gavel. I'll have my repeating part tests. It shows that I have now this repeatable object element, which looks a little bit different from the other fields that you can map. And then I can, in here, I know that there are contacts. I can either say it's going to be the clients, the children on the matter, or any selection of people. So I can make a list. Actually, let's just do the children because it's nice and a lot. And now when I process the template, it pushes all those over as a repeatable list. So if you now have your interested party like letter generator, then you get 8 people out of there straight away. There's probably more that we need to plug in here, maybe with addresses, or like we don't support those things yet, but I'd be happy to listen to some feedback how you would want to use this and what other fields you might need. I think address is probably one of them if we're going to send letters, right? But it's starting to work. So that's a little bit of magic for today's presentation.
I'm so excited. Can I say one more thing about this, Wouter? It's just another reason why I love working with DecisionVault and with Gavel is because these guys they are hands-on, they are in it, right? And when there are suggestions brought up or something saying, hey, could you, or would you, or maybe, those types of things, they are responsive, right? They are letting you know kind of what the possibilities are, and constantly working through it and improving the products based off of feedback. So you're working with, small business that is really listening. And so Wouter, I'm so excited about that feature. Thank you for working on that.
Yeah. I see one question about it, how to get the data into a Word document. So like you use those in your Gavel templates to then build up a template with some kind of repeatable magic. That I'm less familiar with. I probably need I've been focused on getting the data in Gavel to begin with. Probably my example needs a better example to use that into a list or use that to do several documents all at once. But yeah, that'll come.
And one of the really powerful things, I think we're very, very excited about the repeating item integration between the 2 of our platforms. One of the really great pieces about the integration is also that if you have information, you don't necessarily have to have all the information in DecisionVault to pass forward. So you can have some of the information in DecisionVault And if there are any remaining fields that still need to be filled out in your document, then Gavel will prompt you for those before you generate the documents. And then in terms of how you, just to further answer Anne's question in the comments about how you get the data into a Word document, there is, so we have a Microsoft Word add-in that allows you to add all the different fields directly into the document. So you can say, I want the names to go in these different locations. You can format them exactly how you want. So they're, you know, if you have them in all caps and bold, they're always all caps and bold in those specific places. You can structure them with commas in between, with Oxford comma before the last item, without an Oxford comma, all of your preferences. And you can also add all of the logic inside through the Word add-in as well.
All right. What questions might people have? You can either unmute yourself and ask live, or write in the chat. I see a question from Nancy Rose. Hi, Nancy. About consultants. So we have well, Beth, who is presenting on this call, is one of the consultants in our consultants directory. There she is, Techie PM. But at the bottom of the DecisionVault website, there's a link to our consultants directory. So there's several consultants there that could help with implementation. And I think, Dorna, you guys also have a group of people who help with this, right?
Yes, we have people called Gavel experts who can also help with the implementation process. I can share a link to that in the chat in a minute as well.
And I see a question on the Word templates are set up with Gavel. Yes. So like from DecisionVault will help you with the client intake side. So the client will work through this client experience. They tell you who they are, who their children are. They can work through this asset intake, which can come out as an Excel spreadsheet. So it makes it a lot easier to do financial intake. And then that information can get pushed into the Gavel workflow. And from there, Gavel will take over. So in Gavel, you build up your workflow with the different variables, and then you can build up your Word templates or PDF templates using those different fields to then build the actual document. So that's the two-step approach there. Okay,
and maybe it would be helpful for me to just do, since we have a little bit of time, I can show a quick screenshot or a quick mini demo of what the tagging process looks like in Gavel.
Yeah, I think Caitlin actually says that she has the something open already. So if you want to share, Caitlin, that's what we just were looking at.
Excellent. Yes, please do. Beautiful.
Okay, there we go. So I just pulled up the petition that we looked at earlier. This is the sort of behind the scenes, like, I guess, field dropping that we did in Gavel. So what Dorna was talking about is there's this Microsoft Word add-in called the document tagger that allows you to go searching for the specific fields that you want in the document itself. So like we saw earlier with Scooby-Doo, right? They entered Scooby-Doo in DecisionVault and it got mapped over. It was being mapped over to this first field is the decedent's first name with an uppercase letters, and the decedent's last name uppercase, and then date of death. So you're able to, like, if I wanted to put the date of death right here, for example, you're able to just select and I can choose how it appears. Do I want it, like what format I want it in, day, month, day, and then I can just insert it and then it drops it right there. And so you can get into like date calculations, certain phrases, if it depends on if today's date's after the date of death, by how many days. And so I think this is what I think Beth and Dorna and Wouter are all talking about. Like, this is really robust but accessible logic and customization that can happen within your document itself that allows for specific formatting and really complex if-then statements. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, and then I saw a couple of other questions roll in that keep jumping to my other screen when I start sharing. So the let's see where we were. Okay. So the other one, practice areas, yes, like business, corporate, IP. Like we've seen people build out questionnaires and Decision Vault for that, and then indeed, like on the Gavel side, you can build whatever, like letters or or forms or whatever you want, right, in terms of documents.
Really
So on the
anything
Decision
that's
Vault side,
rules-based.
sorry,
Anything that's rules-based, really.
right,
So
and
like
then
bankruptcy,
the
immigration.
information can come from Decision Vault in terms of like what are all these variables or fields. And then because you have that workflow kind of as a step in the middle before you get to documents, there you could leave some of the choices to like include this clause or that clause. And like you can set some of those multiple choices like you saw Caitlin and Beth do, or like yes, no's on things to include. And then that can drive certain things that you build up in your templates, right? So that's really the several step approach. This is what I was going to show. In Decision Vault, you can set up multiple different types of questionnaire. So like Beth said, when you register for a trial Decision Vault and create an account, it'll automatically generate a default estate planning questionnaire for you, which will ask for all the people, it'll ask for all the assets, and it has kind of enough boilerplate, like welcome to this questionnaire, and like here's some sample other questions. There's enough there that like you could register for a trial, take the link, and just send it out to a client. And I actually had someone come up to me the other day and told me that they did that. Like they opened it, registered for a trial, took the link, sent it to a client, closed it, didn't look for it at it for a week. And then the client like had filled it in and they could like see their information. And like, that's how out of the box it works. It's probably shorter than you would want to use it, but it'll work out of the box, right? It's not like, oh, I registered for this account. Now it's all empty and I have nothing to start with. And where do I start? Like, no, we have something to start with. That's what we do for planning. For it's possible to build up different kinds of questionnaires in Decision Vault. So we have a business style one, which is a little shorter. So you don't, it skips the questions on like, hey, what's your marital status and what's your wife's phone number? Like we don't need that for trademark applications. So like that we have business intake. And then there's two flavors of a representative questionnaire. So it adds another section to the questionnaire to ask like, hey, who are you as a representative filling this in? And you can change that word. On behalf of either a decedent or a person needing assistance, right? So that's how you can build probate questionnaires, trust administration questionnaires, guardianship, conservatorship, etc. So we have different kinds of questionnaires. And then indeed, like on the Gavel side, you can build up the list of fields that you need to then fill your templates. So that's how you build up these different pieces. Let me run through to see what other questions were here. How do you get to the design sheet? So the design sheet, if you don't have that active yet, so you have to go to the settings, customization in Decision Vault, and under one of these questionnaires, I will find the design sheet, or if it hasn't been turned on, I can activate it here, and that will make it show up as an option on your matter detail screen. So here, there's two ways to do this. The first is that I open the digital screen. If we're doing like a virtual meeting with the client, I can have this open. I can run through this. Like was mentioned earlier in the demos, like you can build whatever you want in this. We include a pretty robust example for estate planning. We also support it for probate, but it will be empty, so you can build up your questions in there. So this will let you give you your own section of the questionnaire that the client never sees. So this can have all your shorthand for between you and your drafting paralegal on like how to like design this person's plan. It's also possible to do that on paper. So I can export it as a Word document. There we go. So I could print this or put it on my iPad and walk into a client meeting, and then like it has the same stuff on there. It's just now it's on Word. So now I can see a list of the children, see a list of the assets. I can make check marks here on like how we're gonna do this trust for this person. When it comes to selecting people into roles, it just folds in a list of the names. I can write a 1, a 2, a 3. So that's the design sheet. But of course, if you do it digitally, then you can like integrate it into Gavel. If you do it on paper, you might then, you or your assistant can help fill out the digital one so that we have the advantage of like filling it in once and then carrying it over into the other tools. Somebody's asking about bleep Laya. Yes, we do support linking into Laya. It's not as robust as with Gavel because Laya is owned by Clio and they don't have their own integration interface. So from DecisionVault, you would have to sync information into Clio, and then you have to go into Clio to pull it into Laya. So there's some kind of steps in the middle that make it like not as robust or helpful to kind of get the info, because like we put stuff into Clio as related contacts and some information goes into matter level custom fields, but then Laya is not able to pull all of that out of Clio. So there's just, yeah, there's some, it's not as straightforward as how we do it directly with Gavel.
And if you are using them, we'd love to convince you why
Yes.
Gavel is the right fit for you.
There you go. Okay, I think, do you have probate or trust administration design sheets? We don't have those. They tend to, like, estate planning tends to be more comparable between like different states. Probate can be a little bit more different also in the type of documents and outcomes that can get generated for the courts. So that's why we don't really have an example. But if you have current ones that you may have been using, then you can reach out to support at DecisionVault.com and we can help you get going or point you in the right direction. All right. What other questions do people have?
See another question right afterwards about Gavel document automation differing from Lawmatics document automation. So we actually have a lot of users who use Lawmatics to integrate with Gavel because Lawmatics isn't really a document automation platform. They're more of like a marketing type tool. And so they really can do some basic mail merge in terms of their document automation, but then you'll want, if you really want to generate sets of documents for your estate plans, you're going to want something that's more robust like Gavel.
And if I can piggyback on that, I mean, very basic, very, very basic automation or document automation in Lawmatics. I have tried to make it a little bit fancy there, and there are just issues and things that don't work right. And so unless you're just pulling like the client name and address, like if you need anything beyond that, the Lawmatics document automation tools aren't going to cut it.
I see Nella raised her hand.
Yes, I don't have a question. I just want to make a comment. So my name is Nella Ewer. I work for Beth at Tech EPM, and I've been working the last 2.5, 3 months in Gavel. And I just want to give a shout out to their support team. They have an amazing customer support team. They've been extremely responsive. And I think out of all of the emails that I flooded them with, they have had an answer, a solution for everything that I've asked them. So thank you, Dorna. Thank you, your team. You guys have been amazing.
Definitely something we pride ourselves on. So thank you, Nella, for recognizing that. And Maddie, who's on our customer support team, customer success team, is also on the call here today. So we really want everyone to be successful. We came from this world ourselves and want to be able to answer you as quickly as possible with the best and most robust answers.
All right. So I see a question about DecisionVault. Does it work on mobile or tablet? Like, yes, we don't have an app or anything, but the tool is set up so it works fine if we squeeze this down. So like even the asset intake works fine on mobile. So a surprising high number of people fills out this entire thing on a mobile phone. I wouldn't really want to, but it works. So yes, like that does work fine.
And same with Gavel as well. Lots of mobile phone users.
And there was a use case I wanted to mention. Can I just give one more use case of Gavel? Do I have a minute? Okay, so this doesn't have to do with the integration, but it's just, again, kind of getting the art of the possibility of how you can use these tools. Gavel also has, as Dorna kind of alluded to, getting paid for products, like that idea. But even if you're not at the point where you're getting paid for, you know, the document generation tool, but you're using it as a way to bring people in, you know, during COVID, doing like powers of attorney for healthcare, having kind of a form where people can fill it out and have like sign like a you know, like in some sort of agreement so they understand you're not representing them, but they were able to get powers of attorney for healthcare and go ahead and go ahead and execute those, and to bring people to bring the attention to the firm as well for having an offering. In the past, I've also done like very basic guardian nominations when I was doing a presentation or a webinar to parents of minor children. So, you know, that was something to bring them in, be like, oh, I've been wanting to get that done. And then, you know, you obviously tell them all the reasons why there's a lot more to it. But at the same time, if they want to get the basic done, it was set up that I didn't have to touch it. You know, after that initial setup and the documents were going to be generated and we have the workflow for them to go in and fill out, people were downloading the document and filling them out. And I did have, you know, a handful of people come from that and then end up doing more robust estate planning services because I was top of mind and they recognized they needed more. So that was another really cool use case for Gavel that Gavel does really well.
Awesome. Thank you for highlighting that, Beth.
All right. Well,
There's a few more questions that maybe we answered some of them in the chat, but just to go through them quickly. Someone asked about whether Gavel can import information onto fillable PDFs that the court provides. Yes, that is possible. You can fill out, you know, judicial counsel forms, court forms, government forms. We're also coming out with some really exciting updates to that, probably in about 3 weeks, that will make it even easier for you to do those. That's one. Workflows, you can have multiple documents, as you saw some of the examples at the end of the process, they were generating multiple documents. Those are each one workflow. So you can generate multiple documents with one workflow.
all right. It looks like we've reached the end of the questions. Thank you all for your attention today. If you want to learn more about Gavel, gavel.io. If you want to learn more about DecisionVault, decisionvault.com. We'll wish you all a good rest of your day. And we'll circulate a recording of this session for the ones on here and the ones who couldn't make it today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.